In battle, we are reborn.
Flee, and the spear will find your back.
They are called gods, but when they die, you cannot hear their howls above the wind.
Hey guys, welcome back. I'm gonna show you how to play Pantheon today. So Pantheon is a diver with a super strong early game. Not as strong as Darius, but he's still really strong, and that's why if I know I win the 1 versus 1, little 1, then I try to go for a cheese. So that's why we're camping in this bush right here, and then we are waiting for the Ilaoi to pop up. So his passive, whenever you use an auto attack or an ability, then you get stacks of that passive. And once you have 5 stacks, then your next ability is empowered. And you actually start off with this fully stacked passive when the game starts. So his level 1 is actually really OP. And if you notice what I did right here, besides the camping part, I waited using the burst damage until the very end, so I like timed the ignite and the Q at the same time, because then Ilaoi would not be able to flash away, because she does not expect the damage. Now if I ignited her before I did that, then she would know I was going for the kill and then she would just flash away. So the way your Q works is that if you tap it, then he's going to like thrust the spear forward, and it deals damage, it's AoE damage. And you also get some of the cooldown refunded. But if you hold that ability down, then it becomes a ranged ability. So you get some extra range on it, but then it deals less damage to every target beyond the first one. So the key to playing Pantheon here is that you play around the passive. So you try to stack up the passive by attacking the minions, because it stacks from auto attacks as well as you using abilities. And as I said, it's going to empower one of your abilities. So the empower Q is going to deal more damage, and then you have your W, which is like a leap and a stun. The empowered one is going to make it so that leap also deals damage. And that's like 3 quick auto attacks. So if you have something like a PTA, the keystone, then that empowered W is going to proc it instantly. And then your E, so what it does is that it's going to block out all damage coming from in front of you, not from the towers, but from champions and such. So you can see I'm using it right here. And the empowered one is going to make it so you get a lot of bonus movement speed when you recast it. So that E actually makes it insanely annoying trying to trade back against the Pantheon. It's part of what makes him so oppressive in the laning phase, is that you can go for a trade with a full stack passive, and then when you have to disengage, you just use that E, and then no matter what they throw at you, it's going to deal 0 damage. But keep in mind though, that it only blocks out the damage from the front. Like if they hit you from the back, then that E does not work, okay? So that's super important to know. You have to make sure that you're facing the target's direction when you use it. So stack up the passive, and then you engage with a W, and then a quick Q, and an auto attack if you can, and then just back off. So the way your Q works is that it deals, or it crits low HP targets, including minions and champions as well. But the thing is, usually you want to engage when you have 4 stacks, because then when you use your W, you get the 5th stack, and then you make sure that that empowered ability works with your Q instead, because that Q is the main damage you have. So if you go in with 4 stacks, then you get the empower Q. But if you go in with 5 stacks, then you go in with the empower W. In this case, we're of course maxing out the Q, and we're also running Conqueror. But if you're running PTA, then empower W is also really OP. That's a really nice Q right there. It's a skill shot, of course. The hitbox is really small with this ability, so it's actually pretty easy to dodge. So if you can be patient, you know, and wait out the opponent, see how they're trying to dodge it, and then use it, then maybe it can help you land a free hit. So we got the ultimate up here. So Pantheon is actually an early to mid game champion, but he's also decent late on in the game now because of his ultimate. So the passive part of it gives him armor pin, so it allows him to stay relevant even later on in the game when people start stacking those defensive items. And then the active is what he's known for. It's like it's not a fully global ultimate, but it lets you roam And it's like you're going to disappear for a short while and then you appear at the spot that you selected, and then people will be slowed and they also take damage. But this ultimate is actually delayed. Like, first of all, the spear is going to drop on the ground and then people can see you coming. So when you use it, try to like aim it further behind the opponent because this ultimate is pretty delayed. So if you aim it further behind or in front, wherever they're going to run towards, then you have a much easier time trying to like catch them with it. But this ultimate is actually really OP for roaming. So this ultimate, it's a bit harder to roam as a top laner because you are further away from the map. So if you like make a stupid roam, then the enemy top laner is just going to deny you the plates. So if you play in mid lane, it's a lot easier to pull it off because you are at the center of the map. So you have easy access to top and bot lane. But always play around the passive. It's super important, guys. Stack it up on the minions and then you go in for a quick trade. He's more of a burst champion. He does not have damage in extended fights. He wants to go in and burst people, and then if he cannot kill them, he wants to disengage, and then he waits for his cooldowns again. So Illaoi is actually a pretty bad matchup for Pantheon. But she messed up in the early game, so we have the lead right now, obviously. So we can actually look for kills. I was scared that the Nocturne was going to ult me, so that's why I disengaged. But make sure that your E is up. Always when you trade, and do not waste it, because it has a pretty big cooldown. And if people see your E is down, then that's when they are trying to engage onto you. And just look at that damage. That's why, if possible, if you can use that Empower Q when they're low HP, it's going to crit. And it's like, it's going to hit like a nuke. Like, it's going to absolutely one-shot people. That's also how I got that kill in 1. Because Illaoi, like, people don't expect that damage, right? That amount of burst damage level 1, people do not expect it. So they often think that they're gonna survive with like a little bit of HP, so they don't bother flashing. That's why you try to like time all of your stuff at once. At level 1, I timed my Empower Q as well, or my Q as well as the Ignite at the same time. Because like Q is going to crit when they're low HP, and that allowed me to get the first blood. But he's a lane bully, so you have to play aggressive and you have to be able to find kills like this. Because if you don't, he's going to fall off. Like, he's going to fall off really hard. Not as hard as previously though, before he got the rework. Which is a while ago, but still, like, he's going to fall off compared to a lot of other champions. So if you're someone who really likes to play those aggressive early game champions, then yeah, Pantheon might actually be a good choice. And that roam I did right there, I tried to steal the kill, but Fizz got it, that's fine. But kind of how you want to use the ultimate, right? Try to flank with it, try to aim it in a way that when people try to escape, then they end up running into your ultimate, and then you can catch them. But it's a pretty simple champion to play, and also really easy at the same time, so it's definitely something you can pick up if you're looking for a strong early game champion. You can see that Q just demolishing that entire caster wave. So yes, that is also your wave clear. But like, remember that if you use the ranged Q, guys, then it's going to deal a lot less damage to targets beyond the first one. But if you use it in melee, like if you just tap it, then the damage is not getting reduced. So it's going to deal the full amount of damage to all targets. That's important when you wave clear, and that's also important when you fight. This is what I do a lot, and this is also something you should be doing a lot, is that if you show in the wave top lane and you're not able to kill the top lane anymore because maybe they are playing safe, then you just shove it in and then just roam. Try to pressure the opponents as much as possible. Even better if you can pressure the enemy jungler, because they tilt really easily, especially if you like kick them out of their own jungle and you take away their camps. This champion is insanely OP in the early game, so you have to abuse it. Like, you don't play back and play safe for this champ. You have to find leads in the early game. Because if you don't, you'll end up getting outscaled really fast. And also, Pantheon is also really easy to gank for the allied jungler because he has a point and click CC on his W. So you can easily set up tower dives and stuff, but you have to play it right. You have to be coordinated with your jungler because otherwise it can mess up. Because your E does not work on towers. That's important to know, so don't try to like block out tower shots because that is not going to work. This Rengar went a bit too ham. You should have waited like a little bit and then that would have been free. Because I was getting pretty low HP. I tried to like bait out this Ilaoi stuff, but right now we can look for a flash. Because the Empower Q is going to crit as well. To see what I did right here, I had 4 stacks and then I flashed on top of the Ilaoi. Because when you have 4 stacks and then you W, you get the 5th stack and that's going to give you the Empower Q. That's like an instant burst combo that you can do if the target is low HP. And you think they might somehow escape if you like engage onto them with other methods. Then you can like do the instant flash into the W. And then a free Q crit when they're low HP and bam, free kill. Easy peasy. So I want to roam here, but the thing is the wave is in a pretty bad spot. So obviously if I try to roam right now, like this Ilaoi is just going to AFK push and then take all of my plates. So we have to go back top lane right now. And then if possible, you want to show out the wave before roaming. That's a pretty fit Nocturne. Yeah, not sure what's happening in the bottom and mid side. Question mark Fizz. But Pantheon, you have so much pressure in the early game. So make sure that you abuse it. If you're not able to find kills in the top lane, then roam and find kills in the mid, bot lane, or even in the jungle. So I'm gonna use the ultimate right here to make sure they're not getting too many plates, because I have the E, right? So I can afford to tank damage. And then I just used the W to the minion here, so I got back to safety, and we got the ultimate out, the Soraka. So because you have that E, you're actually pretty tanky as long as you have it up. But when you do not have it up, you get one shot by absolutely everything, so do be careful when it's on cooldown. So you can go super ham when that E is up, guys, because like you can tank everything and it's going to deal 0 damage as long as they are in front of you. If somebody's able to sneak behind you, then you still end up getting one shot, because then that E does not matter, because it only blocks damage from the front. So it's not a champion that you get very high CS numbers with, because it's more like an assassin where you just look for kills over and over, and then you try to snowball with the lead you got from the kills. He also does not have the best wave clear, like you have to stack up the wave, and your Q has pretty short range as well, like the one where you tap it, because that's the wave clear part of it. So like his wave clear is not the best. So you want to try to like abuse the opponent, try to find kills, and then that should give you an opening for you to like roam and then find kills elsewhere, where you can really snowball your lead. If the opponent is playing really safe, you can either roam or you can show in the wave and then let it bounce back, because then you can set up a freeze. And when you set up a freeze, it's not going to matter if they play safe. Because even if you're not able to find a kill, they're also not able to farm. Like you just zone them away from the CS. They're not able to farm and they also will not get the XP. So that's how you punish people who are, you know, staying far back the entire game and just playing out safe. And Ignite is a must-have on Pantheon, as you can see, because like without it you don't have as much kill pressure, and it is a champion that wants to find kills in the landing phase. And of course Ignite is the best summoner spell for that, Flash and Ignite, so that's something you have to use every single game if you play Pantheon. So I got the first tower here, mid game started. What do you do in the mid game? When you have your ultimate up, then you could just stay in the silence, because then you have that ultimate to like flank people in case something happens. But when it's on cooldown, you want to try to like group and try to like flank, you know, get in from the behind at the back. Because you have to like play him like an assassin where you find the squishy targets. The AD carry, the mage, the squishy enchanter support, carry jungler, whatever they have. You try to like one-shot them in a single combo, so you try to like have 4 stacks on the passive, because when you W, then you get the 5th stack, and then the Empower Q is ready, right? So try to go in with 4 stacks and then just one-shot somebody. And that's it, that's how you play it. So he's like a diver, he's not as tanky as a bruiser, but he forces people to play around him, because if they don't, he's gonna take out the backline and then it's GG's. We're just gonna head back to top lane here. Wave is pushing in again and we don't really want to get punished here, and then we can ult top lane if the Elau is pushing far up. In this case she was not, otherwise I would have ulted. It's pretty rare that you actually get to hit them with the damage part of your ultimate. Because like, look at the delay there is on this ult. It's pretty easy to escape it, right? So that's why you want to like place it further behind them, so you kind of cut off their escape path. So we got the flash and the ultimate out of the Ahri, so that's completely fine. Because that's just going to make it harder for her to look for kills and roam as well. Then you can use that range Q to like poke them down. It is pretty difficult to like get a clean shot off because of the hitbox being that small. So a lot easier if you do it when you're in the fog of war, because then they will not see it coming. So you can afford to tank a lot of damage here. We're going for the Nocturne. And then I'm using that E to block out the damage from the MF. You can see that actually allows us to tank for a bit. So we kind of becomes a tank for a short duration. And then the moment this ability is on cooldown, we just have to peace out. Like we have to get the kill before that happens and then get out. So always try to flank unless you can find easy kills like this where people overextend. Otherwise you want to be flanking, otherwise the AD carry, the mage and such is just going to damage you. And if you get poked down in the fight, then it's done. Like, you won't be able to do anything. That's a really nice combo by the L-Star, so we'll take that. As for the items, so Eclipse is like the most beneficial item because it gives you everything you need. And then with the Cleaver, top lane, you're going to match a play against a Bruiser most of the time, or a tank. So Cleaver is of course super useful, but in the mid lane you can just go for Yumus if you're playing as a squishy target. Because then you don't need that armor pin. Armor pin is really OP in the top lane against tankier targets, but against squishier ones who don't get to build a lot of armor, then Yumus, Ghostblade and other lethality items are really good. But as you can see, you can afford to go really ham when your E is up, and when it's down, you have to get out of there. So I'm ulting behind them because I saw the L-Star coming in. I'm gonna go straight for the Soraka, get the free kill, and I'll just get out. It's also another way that you can use that ultimate, because that slow is actually really useful as well. So setting on a lot of goals so we can just peace out and then get the next item. So of course becoming super fed this game. You're not going to be this fed every single game, but you should be aiming to get fed every single game when you play this champion, because it's a champion with a really strong landing phase and high kill pressure. So you want to abuse that, because later on it's going to become almost impossible if you don't find a lead. Like if you play against the mage or something, they're just going to poke you out. So you have to find leads in the early game, because then you can abuse the items you get to like one-shot people, and then you try to close off the game. We're just going in from the bottom side right here. The farm is not very high, but it's also not a heavy farming champion. I'm gonna flank the MF because this is how you want to play them. Like an assassin, get around them. Wait for greedy targets. In this case, that was the MF going for that way right there. So she's getting punished for it. Interesting Q, but that does not matter because this guy is going down. And I'll just keep pushing it in the bottom side. Like, I see a lot of people, they know how to get kills, but they feel like they fall off before they really get to use the lead. And the problem here is that they play for the kills and they don't play for the objectives. So the moment you get a kill or something, you want to look for the next objective that you can take. That is usually the dragon, the towers or something. Just make sure that you play around the objectives, because if you don't, it's not going to matter if you get a lead. If you don't know how to finish off the game, you're just letting the opponent stall it out, and then they're gonna outskill you. So I'm just pushing it out in the bottom lane, focusing down the objectives. And that Yumus is actually really nice to have because the active helps with the gap closing. So even if somebody flashes away, you can just pop the active and then still reach them. Most of the time, that is. Of course not if it's something like a Cassidy, but it actually helps a lot. So we are sitting on a lot of gold once again. So I did get the Executioners early on, and that's because they have a lot of healing. The Ilaoi actually heals for a lot, and same for Soraka. So by getting this, the laning phase was actually a lot easier. And now we're gonna go for the Death Stance. I don't want to finish that anti-healing item yet. Death Stance is one of the most OP items we have right now. Even though it only gives armor, the passive makes you extremely tanky against magic and physical damage. Ulting in right here, get a flank off, right in the back line, one-shotting the MF, and that's how you want to do it. Go for the squishy targets like an assassin, take the AD carries out, and then your teammates should be able to clear out the rest. So just keep pushing it out here. You can just continue go for the Soraka. Look at how easily you can burst somebody down. This stuff you can do in the early to mid game, but later on in the game when people start grouping up, like Pantheon wants to single out one target to one-shot him, but that's hard in the later stages of the game because people start to group up. So the moment you jump on one target, the entire team is waiting for you and you just end up getting one shot. That's why the easiest point for you to close out the game is in the early to mid game. So that's what you'd really have to focus on when you play Pantheon. I'm just gonna go ham here with the Fizz. Taking down the Nocturne and then blocking out the Misfortune ultimate with the E. And then as you get more ability haste, you also get lower cooldowns on that E, of course, so you can afford to be a tank more often. And then more points into that ultimate, meaning that we get more armor pen as well, which helps us stay relevant in the later stages of the game. So you're not as reliant on building armor pen, but it's still really useful when you play top lane against a bruiser or a tank. There's a bit too ham from the Alistar, but yeah, I actually greeted way too much and that's gonna end up in me giving away a shutdown for no reason, so that's a big mistake. You want to go for risky plays when you're behind. You don't want to do that when you're ahead, because there's no need to. That is only going to help the enemy team get back into the game. But we are pretty much full build, like we just need to upgrade the last item, but here's like Pantheon, full build in the mid game, which is of course nice. But you're not going to get 17 kills every single game. Even though, still have to focus on snowballing. You have to be extremely fit at this point. Because if you're not able to do that, then Pantheon is not the champion for you. You have to find ways to find a kill. If you cannot kill the enemy laner, you have to roam with that ultimate and then find kills elsewhere and then snowball that way. Just looking for the Soraka right here. She's isolated from the Nocturne. Just jumping in and getting that free kill. And that's it. So that was how to play Pantheon. I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching guys, and see you all next time.